Another day, another power trip and law enforcement violation. And as a law enforcer, you know you've taken a horrible turn off the road piracy trail when a lowly Lyft driver knows your penal codes better than you do and incessantly reminds you of them during an unlawful stop.
Clearly, you don't know 3802, right? 3802. Penal code 38.02. Penal code 38.02. Look it up. 3802. 3802. 38.02. Penal code 38.02. Read 3802. That's it.
Mr. Roncone from Corners News is in Laredo, Texas. And I know everything's bigger in Texas, including law enforcement egos and other things. And don't get me started on fear. They got some big law enforcement fear up in Texas. They're even seeing guns where there are no guns.
It's not a gun.
To me, it's a gun. Step out of the vehicle.
And they got to get their fix. They need to see that ID.
You need to identify yourself to a police officer when they ask you for identification.
You are wrong, man.
And for some reason, when you're standing up for your rights and resisting their harassment, you're the one who's making things difficult.
Why are you making it so difficult when you just ask for ID to see if it's you or what? Well, how can we find out to make it more easier?
But the Laredo, Texas cops do specialize in one thing: sentence fragments.
This is an investigation.
That's an incomplete sentence. Investigation of what? What crime?
It's not a crime. It's not a crime.
Which just confuses the whole thing. Okay, Mr. Roncone is a Lyft driver. He's sitting in his vehicle on his own property waiting for a ride request. That's when the Laredo Police Department says they got a call for a suspicious vehicle. Watch how calmly this guy asserts his right to retain his personal identity.
¿Para qué?
Because I don't know what you're doing here.
Es
I don't
mi
know if it's your
propiedad.
property or not.
It's not a gun.
To me, it's a gun. Step
Well,
out of the
you-
vehicle. Do you have an ID with you, sir?
Yes, I do, pero es mi property, les estoy diciendo.
Okay, well,
But we don't know if it's your property, sir. We need to verify.
So,
So if we're requesting for you to identify yourself,
Uh-huh.
you need to identify yourself to a police officer when they ask you for identification.
you are wrong, man.
We got called here, so we have a right to be here, so we're asking for your
Pero
identification.
te estoy diciendo que es mi property.
Okay,
And how do we know that, sir? You don't give us your name or anything. How can we verify this is your property? That means anyone can park over here and say, this is my property?
Porque yo estoy diciendo que es mi property, por eso.
How do we know that?
You have a reason
To be here, yes.
No, to believe that this is not my property, or what?
Yes, because we don't know who you are.
You don't need to know who I am.
Yes, we do.
You don't. You don't.
You need to provide us with your identification, your name, and date of birth.
You don't. You don't need to know.
Yes, we do, sir.
It's my property.
And how can we verify that?
You don't need to verify. It's my property. I'm telling
Okay,
you.
well, we don't know that, sir. Why are you making it so difficult when you just ask for ID to see if it's you or what? Well, how can we find out to make it more easier?
Make it more easier for us to harass you, man.
Okay, that's all. Okay, look, I don't even know it's your property. It's not. It's not gate or
I'm
anything. Okay.
I'm telling you,
Okay.
it's my property.
Okay, well, how can you prove that to me?
I don't need to prove anything. It's my
Okay.
property.
Well, first of all, my name is Officer Perez. We got caught for a suspicious vehicle that might be doing illegal drugs. So that's over here.
Illegal drugs?
Yeah. Okay. Now, I don't know if it's you or not.
Okay.
Now, you're saying this is your property. Well, just show us documentation. Y nos vamos.
I don't need to
Okay,
prove anything.
Okay, well, can I see your driver's license?
Oh,
Why not?
it's my property. I'm telling you. Am I guilty of something or what?
Am I saying you're guilty? I'm just saying
You're saying you need to prove.
Make no mistake, show us your documentation is today's version of the Nazi Gestapo, show us your papers. Is that where we want to go in America?
Yes.
You're calling me a
Because we're
liar.
in a suspicious...
You're calling me a liar.
Okay,
It's my property.
You're implementing that to yourself. Okay?
No, because you're saying you're saying I need to prove.
Yes, you do. To an officer, police officer, okay, you do.
So clearly you don't know 3802, right?
Sir, like I said.
3802.
Sir, like I said.
Penal code 38.02. Penal code 38.02. Look it up. It's my.
Let's go ahead and look that up right now. We're going to go ahead and keep this on the screen. This is Penal Code 3802. Failure to identify. A person commits an offense if he intentionally refuses to give his name, residence, address, or date of birth to a peace officer who has lawfully arrested the person. Is this person lawfully arrested? No. And requested the information. That is what 3802 is. We're just going to keep it on the screen right up here, just for a reminder.
My property.
Okay. What's the address here?
You want to know who I am, pero you don't need to know who I am.
No, we need to know. Okay.
¿Quién dijo?
Huh?
¿Quién dijo?
The case law says.
No, hombre. 3802.
Like I said, sir.
3802. Look it up. 38.02. I don't need to identify. Háblale a tu supervisor.
I don't need to call my supervisor. No, we don't.
I didn't request help.
Are you Mr. Rincon? What's the age on the system?
Huh?
67?
Where?
What's the age?
This guy doesn't know what the hell's going
Like I
on.
said, we need to know who you are.
You don't need to know. That's your will.
Just to advise you, if you want to look into that case file.
30. It's not a.
When an officer,
Can I speak?
go ahead.
It's not a case law. Penal Code 38.02.
Okay, under the penal code, when an officer gets called to investigate something, they have a right to be there, one, and then they have a right to identify subjects that are also there. This is an investigation.
It has to be.
Have you ever heard such ignorance coming out of a law enforcement officer who's supposed to be able to specialize and be a specialist in their field? And yet a Lyft driver, a lowly Lyft driver, knows your laws and your codes and your regulations and your ordinances better than you do. It's embarrassing.
Investigation, that's an incomplete sentence. Investigation of what? What crime?
Of the, it's not a crime. It's not a crime. It's an
supposed to be
investigation to see the call about the suspicious vehicle. That's why we are here.
There's the admission right there. It's not a crime. Why are we here? Suspicious vehicle. That is not a crime. Carry on about your business. Leave. You don't need to be here, cops.
You're
And
supposed to
like
be.
the other officer advised you, this is not a gated property or what have you. This is right near to the entrance of a city park. Somebody called in about a suspicious vehicle. That's why we're here.
So it's suspicious. Is that a crime or what?
It's a call just giving us the right to be here.
Yes, we
Read 3802. That's it.
do. Okay. Well, that's why for that.
You have the right to be anywhere you want, but you don't have the rights to violate somebody else's rights.
Reason that you're giving into that section, and for that section, I'm identifying myself as a police officer, and
Because
you're not complying.
You're supposed to
Okay, it's
identify.
a failure to ID.
No.
Yes.
Failure to ID only when I'm under arrest. I'm not under
No,
arrest.
sir. It's not just.
You
when you're under
want to
arrest.
bring your book?
You can look it up also.
No, I'm
It is
recording
not-
right now.
It is not only that.
Okay.
You know what? We shouldn't need 3802, just to clarify. We shouldn't even need the Fourth Amendment. You don't have the right to harass somebody, period. You don't need a Constitution for that. You don't need the Bill of Rights. You don't need a penal code for that. You don't have the right to harass anybody. How do we know? Because these cops don't want to be harassed when they've done nothing wrong. The only way you can intrude on somebody's life if they're intruding on somebody else's life or rights, or hampering their right to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. So it's crazy and it's pitiful that when we have a supreme law of the land of the Fourth Amendment, you have the right to be secure in your person, and then they're going to add a 3802 to it. It's redundancy.
That's what I'm advising. What is the other subsection that you're failing to understand?
You're the officers. You're the one that's supposed to know.
We're advising you,
You-
that
you're
supposed to identify yourself, because if not, then you can be arrested for failure to identify yourself.
That's a secondary charge. A failure to ID is a secondary charge. You can't arrest me for that.
Yes, we can.
You can't. I know you all do, but you can't. You all do it, I know. But that's a secondary offense.
Are you going to provide your identification, sir?
I don't need to. I don't need to.
Well, based on the nature of the call, the suspicious call that we got, that's why we're here. So, us arriving here to a suspicious call, and you're not providing your ID, all right? You're not letting us know who you are.
So I'm guilty of something, right?
I'm not telling you you're guilty.
Then you
But
know,
you are detained right
you know
now,
por qué
so
no
we're
se
here.
van?
Because we're not leaving, because we don't know who you are.
You don't need to know. Yeah, I'm guilty of what?
Okay. Of not providing you your information.
That's not a crime.
Okay.
Providing false information is a crime. I'm not providing any information.
Okay. Well,
You might want to get your sergeant or somebody.
why are you making this so difficult?
Porque es mi property and no tiene que ser.
It's your property.
So I'm guilty of something. Okay.
Answer my question. How do we know that it's your property?
You don't need to know.
Why not?
Because yo te estoy diciendo, it's my
Okay,
property.
well, yo te estoy diciendo que I need to know because I don't know who you are.
You don't need to know who I am.
Okay, I don't know what you're doing here. All right.
You don't need to know what I'm doing here. You don't need to know who I am because I'm telling you it's my property.
Okay. What's the address?
Bueno, dame tu ID.
Aquí está.
No, tu ID, tu a dónde vives y todo.
¿Eh?
Tu ID con tu dirección y todo.
¿Qué tengo que dar mi ID?
Entonces, es lo mismo.
No. We're being caught because of a suspicious vehicle.
Suspicious. Is that a crime or what?
No, it's not a crime.
Then?
But we don't know what you're doing here. Okay.
Okay.
Now, based on you're on the riverbanks, based on our experience, there's a lot of illegal activity that happens through here, drugs, illegal crossing. So we don't know.
So you're suspecting me of crossing somebody?
I don't know.
You don't know?
That's what we're investigating. Okay.
Okay.
You got called out here. That's why we're investigating. That's why you're lawfully detained.
That's not
You're
lawfully.
detained,
That's not
And
lawfully.
you failed to identify yourself. You could be charged. of business
Failure to
arrest.
identify is a secondary charge.
Okay.
You can't arrest me for failure to identify. I know you all do,
you can.
but it's illegally. I know you can.
Yes, we can.
With
Just
the-
whenever, bro, you're getting me nervous, just put your hands in the wheel.
Headers. Ahora tienen miedo.
No te tengo nada miedo a ti.
Entonces.
Okay, but I don't know what you have. Obviously you had a weapon.
Yes, even these cops operate on fear. FEAR. Fabricate, escalate, and retaliate.
That looks like a weapon that might be a weapon. Obviously you had a weapon that looks like a weapon that might be a weapon.
Are you going to identify yourself, or are we going to remove you from the vehicle, sir, to get your information?
You're gonna remove me
Yes.
unlawfully from my vehicle?
Not unlawfully.
It's unlawfully.
If you'd like, we can also get a supervisor here.
That's what I'm being requesting. That's what I'm being requesting. You're
You
denying.
requested one right now?
Yeah.
What else a call you got?
A suspicious call, sir.
Suspicious?
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Might be doing, like I said, illegal drugs.
Might be.
Yeah.
So that's an assumption, no?
That's what we're investigating, sir.
Okay. So I might be doing drugs.
Like I said, we're investigating.
Well, I'm not.
Well, that's good that we found out.
Okay.
But
So
we're here, so we need to know who you are.
you don't.
Yes, we do, sir.
Imagine walking up to a police cruiser where the cop is inside and asking all these questions and making all these assumptions on them like these cops are doing to this guy.
You might want to go to your car and look 3802 in your computer.
Like I said,
38.02.
obviously, I'm believing that you already had experience, and I'm pretty sure you act like this with other cops. I don't know.
Are you friends with officers?
You're failing to identify es un secondary offense. Es secondary, no puedes
But
arrestar.
where does it say that it's a secondary
Porque
offense?
you have to be under arrest.
See,
to
that's
be
the second part
no
of failed to ID.
You have to be under arrest to be charged with failure to identify. If I'm under arrest and then I don't want to give you my information, then it's failure to identify, not before.
But the first part of fail to ID, that first section is just the fact that you're failing to ID.
This cop does not get it. Not giving ID has to be a secondary offense because you can't just walk up to somebody and say, give me your ID, and then they don't give it to you, and then you arrest them for failing to ID. You have to be there to ID them because they've done something wrong. They've committed a crime. They've harmed somebody. They've stolen property. And then if they fail to ID when you arrest them for stealing that property or harming somebody, that's when the secondary offense kicks in. But it cannot be, failure to ID cannot be a primary offense. Otherwise, you're saying that a cop can stop you at any time for any reason in any place and force you, compel you to give your ID. That's ridiculous.
The second part is if you're in custody. But that's just my question. You know you're not doing anything wrong. You're saying you're on your property. Mm-hmm. You've dealt with this already a few times. Yeah. So every time, say, a shift changes or there's new officers that come onto this area, because sometimes we may change.
Sí.
Why not just advise that this is my name, this is my address, I'm on my property, that I've already dealt with this before. We just verify who you are, and then we're on our way.
Translation, why don't you just make yourself insecure in your person? Why don't you just give us everything we ask for at all times?
That's what we were trying to tell you before. All we needed to do was verify who you were, that this is your property. We verify that, and then, okay, we let you go, and you continue doing what you're doing. Yeah. And we understand the whole thing about the gun. Okay, you have a right, even without a concealed license, that you can transport it from your home or to where you're going. Mm-hmm. But that's where you need to verify that.
That's the thing. I don't need to verify anything.
There's our sergeant right there. So
you know, mother, I was trying to prove a point that I don't need to identify. Y estoy en mi property. I mean,
right.
No, I
mean, and I understand. I understand that usted tiene sus derechos. That's what we're here for, to protect your rights. Yeah.
We're here to protect your rights as we've been by your car trying to deprive you of your rights. He says that they recognized who he was and they ended up just kind of letting him go. Again, this is Corners News, but how many times does this happen every single day in America and people just submit? They just give their ID because they don't know the law. And more importantly, they don't know their rights. They don't know how to push back. They don't have the fortitude or the courage to push back. You never want to give away your most precious, your most sacred rights. And one of those is the right to be anonymous. Nobody's got the right to ID you. Again, this is Corners News. I'll leave a link in the description for his channel. If you visit him, let him know Here's the Deal sent you. If you like this content, maybe you'll like some of my other content. Look at my most popular playlist and take a look at some videos that you haven't seen yet. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, grab a shirt, become a channel member, and I will see you in the next video.